Previously, on All That Glitters.
Men will be men, won't they? That's just how they are, you know?
Woman on the road is just making things worse. Voting, driving, what's next?
I had my chance alone with Daisy, while William forced Nick to the lodge and Clara left for bridge.
I was going to turn myself in, you know.
Oh, I didn't know.
That's why we left so quickly the morning that morning. He laughed at me. I walked away from him without saying another word and packed a bag the next morning. We were going to start in Paris. I had been to Paris with Tom. But Jay said you'd never seen Paris until you've seen it in love. That was the first time I really started to question whether I ever loved Tom.
William came around from the side of the house, barring the driver's side door from Nick getting in.
What did he say exactly?
He said, "Leave it alone, Nick, and call off your dog from the hunt. Some things are better left to stay dead and buried."
Of all the things I vehemently disagreed with William Fay about, this was near the top. Things being dead and buried too quickly was exactly the reason we were working this case in the first place. I wasn't about to let this man bully me out of finding the truth about Gatsby's murder, but I also wasn't sure I had ever seen Nick this rattled. Something about William Fay was different, angrier, more urgent than any of the other roadblocks we had hit along the way.
Am I the dog in this scenario?
Is that what you're taking away here?
Yes.
Well, yes, then I think you are.
Woof woof.
That doesn't alarm you at all?
Come on, he's a bully. He's worse than Tom, if that's even possible. But we know he couldn't have gotten to New York quickly enough to kill Jay.
Unless Tom called him first, before he went into the city, before Myrtle was killed. He might have been planning ahead.
Clara did say...
What did she say?
Well, remember when we were talking about Daisy and Gatsby? She said she had heard the news about his murder when William was away.
It does feel rather coincidental that he was out of town when it happened.
Well, at any rate, I'm not going to let him scare me away from this.
What if we should back off? What if we're putting ourselves in danger by digging?
I'd rather die digging than live knowing the truth is out there that I could have uncovered.
You would die for this?
Well, I didn't say I want to, but I'm not going to let someone like William Fay stop me.
Let's just be careful. Lay a little low for a few days when we get back to New York. If he has heard something or calls someone, we don't want to be in the middle of hunting down evidence when they find out.
I'll give you 3 days of backing down. Then it's all in again. Deal?
Deal.
It turned out that I did need some rest. My brain was spending every free moment spiraling into a hole of what evidence we had, what we needed, and who ultimately could be behind this murder. Based on what William had said to Nick as we left, I was fairly confident that he was involved, but had no idea how deeply. I thought maybe Daisy had let something slip to her mother on a phone call, too wrapped up in her own happiness to stop herself. But for as much of a busybody as Clara seemed to be, she also seemed genuinely shocked to hear that Daisy would even consider an affair. I mean, I wasn't sure she was a good enough liar to be faking that response, so it's likely William didn't hear it from her. There might be someone in the house gathering information and relaying it back to William, someone who maybe overheard or purposefully listened in to the conversation Daisy and I had privately in her room. Or, most likely, there was someone in New York giving him a heads up. The most obvious person would be Tom. Nick had said Tom was so certain, so secure that day in the hotel that there's no way Daisy would leave him for Gatsby. The more I thought through it, the more I wondered if he had set some security on that before even heading into the city. I wondered if, when he found out about the affair, if he might have called William Fay right then. That would have given him plenty of time to make it into the city and wait for Tom's word. Tom wouldn't have let himself get his own hands dirty. The possibility of someone seeing and recognizing him on his way in and out of Gatsby's mansion would have been too dangerous to chance. But Daisy's father, a man no one in either East or West Egg had likely ever seen before, he could have been a useful tool to take care of a mess that would have spelled scandal for the whole Fay family. I would just have to keep digging and keep searching once my mandatory 3-day suspension had been spent actually exploring New York City. It was the first time I had been, and even through the investigation, Nick was determined to show me the few spots that still made him happy. The first 2 days went by with visits to libraries and parks, all the places that Nick had spent his lunches and breaks while he was working. It really was beautiful. The air was starting to turn crisp, and the wind was starting to pick up the leaves off the trees one by one. The collars of coats started to turn up, and the busy city streets started to thin out as people were favoring their time inside above walking through the late summer air. On day 3, I was just starting to formulate the plan on how I would reapproach our investigation the next day when it came crashing back into us in the shape of Jordan Baker. We walked into the only place on Nick's New York tour that actually seemed popular. Most of the spots we had hit were empty of people except for maybe 1 or 2, and honestly it all made sense for who Nick was. For as much as he loved watching people and finding their stories, he didn't really want to be in situations where he'd have to talk to anyone. This nightclub was his exception. Every table was full, and so was every seat at the bar that stretched back into the far depths of the building. I was surprised they had even let us in the front door based on their capacity and our clear lack of anything in common with the patronage, but the doorman had given Nick a wink and a smile, and we pushed past the line waiting to get inside.
Who is that? You know him? What is this place?
Why did you bring that? You said no investigating.
Oh, I'm not investigating the crime. I'm investigating your secret New York life. And I'm glad I did, because this is crazy. What brought you to a place like this?
Gatsby.
Oh, well, now who's back to investigating?
Not investigating, remembering.
He brought you here?
Before I really knew him, I learned a lot about him that day, but honestly, I barely believed the word of it. I want to see it again. It's busier now than it was.
I bet. It's hard to imagine a place being any busier than this.
There's a couple seats over there. Let's go.
Oh, Nick Carraway's I Live and Breathe.
Jordan, I didn't expect to see you here.
If I had been interested in Nick in any capacity besides friendship, I would have given up right on the spot if I thought that a woman like Jordan Baker would be my competition. She was a picture of perfection, radiating confidence in a way I could never dream of. But it all seemed perfectly justified. Her hair was perfect. A black bob hitting right above her shoulders where the straps of a sequined gold gown were suggestively slipping down each time she moved. Her tanned arms stretched out in front of her to touch or gesture with each word as she spoke. Her musical voice pulling every man and woman at the bar in closer to her. She was at least 6 inches taller than me and wearing 3-inch heels that towered her above me and most of the men she was surrounded by. She was a statue of beauty and intrigue, and in that moment, I forgot everything I knew about Nick to wonder how he let her go.
An old friend of Nick's from childhood.
He never mentioned you.
No, I don't imagine I would have come up in conversation.
Did he mention me?
Yes. I have heard a lot about you.
Did he tell you he cast me aside like an old overcoat, flinging me into the deepest depression of my whole life?
That sounds awfully dramatic for someone who I'm sure had a million opportunities to move on in a matter of moments. Overnight, even?
Well, you don't get anywhere in life if you aren't a little dramatic, do you? You'll learn.
I am learning so much already.
How's golf?
Oh, you know.
No, I don't.
You don't follow me.
No, I tried to leave as much behind in New York as I could.
Pity. I've been winning.
Been cheating?
I wouldn't dream of it.
I would love to know more about your golf, your career. From what Nick has said, I really admire you and how you've made a name for yourself.
That's sweet. I'm always happy to be an inspiration.
Maybe we could get coffee sometime this week? Just us girls?
I'd be absolutely delighted. Nikki, you won't be jealous.
I think I'll live.
Maybe I could even do a feature on you at the paper I work for. We're always trying to find different celebrities to help the kids search out new career paths or achievement goals.
Name the time and place.
I did, justifying to Nick as he protested in the cab ride back to our hotel that I wasn't trying to pick the investigation back up early. She just materialized in front of us. I promised him that I would tread lightly, but it didn't seem like it'd be that hard to get Jordan to open up to me. After we had set a time for the meeting, we continued to stay in her circle at the bar for just one drink. But it was enough for me to learn quite a bit about her and her recent escapades on the tournament circuit. Something about her seemed so above the world, unbothered by the rules the rest of society had to navigate. It didn't matter that she knew them and used them against other people. She wasn't ever going to see herself get caught up on the wrong side of someone like herself. I reminded myself of this while I walked into the diner that we had decided on. I knew for sure that I didn't want to find out what kind of reaction she would have if she found out I wasn't really planning on featuring her in an article, so I had called my bosses the day before and ran the pitch by them. They were shocked and impressed that I was able to secure this interview and would happily run the article. They even agreed to send a New York photographer to meet us at her apartment if we wanted to do a photo series along with the written piece. Getting off the phone, my gut was churning with excitement that this could be my first main feature under my own name. It made sense for a woman to write about a successful woman in sports, but the fact that I had worked so hard on so many other stories that would go uncredited to my name when something like this fell into my lap chasing a murder, it felt like the universe was playing a bit of a joke on me. Or maybe someone knew that I was going to solve this murder, and they'd never let me publish it as myself, so the stars were tossing me some credibility as scraps leading up to the main meal. Either way, I was glad to be walking in as a legitimate reporter and not a liar, as the metal doors to the diner opened for me. She was, again, perfect. Sitting in a bright red jumpsuit with her hair pulled back off her face, lipstick a vibrant, matching red. She was the most colorful thing in the whole building. Everything around us was a clean white or metal, but she would have known how brilliantly she'd stand out here. She was the one who picked it.
I'm so honored that you asked me here today. I do interviews all the time, but it's always men asking me questions about my love life, how golf gets in the way of my dating, you know, the things only men want to know about. When you said you were a reporter, I nearly jumped out of my skin to say yes.
I meant it when I said I really admire you for making a name for yourself. I know the type of publicity that comes with that and how horribly it can be twisted and spun by the media to denigrate and degrade you just for daring to be successful.
It must be awful, working alongside them every day and knowing you could do so much more.
Most of them are all right, but sometimes I see the pieces they've written and I just want to shake them. This is what you spent your time asking?
I read some of your work. Had my man call up some old editions and scan for your articles over the past couple of days. Wanted to see what I was getting myself in for. You're good.
Thanks. Most of my best work is under the name Dick Diver, though. They won't let me claim the more inflammatory pieces.
And you picked Dick Diver?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I wanted it to be. I wanted people to walk around saying, Dick Diver exposed the St. Paul mayor of bribery and keep a straight face. If they just let me use my own name, they wouldn't have to feel so stupid saying this one.
I love you.
Thank you.
I'll have to read some of Mr. Diver's works, see how you really write.
I promise it's juicier, but we'll make this piece sing.
I have all the trust in the world in you.
My editors also want to send a photographer to your place to take some feature shots of you. Is that something we'd be able to set up in the next week or so?
Of course. You know, I finally got a place of my own last summer. I don't stay there always. I can't possibly when I'm out on the road for so long. But I convinced my aunt that it was time for me to have a closet. Can you imagine living without one place for all your things?
I can't, honestly.
So she moved up here with me. What an adjustment that's been. But we have a little place a few blocks from here. I have enough friends who can check in on her when I'm away, just to make sure the old broad doesn't croak while I'm gone.
Is she who helped you get started in golf? Your aunt?
Oh, it's starting. And no, my father was a golfer. I guess I didn't really have a choice, even though he died when I was 7.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I'm not. I'm told he wasn't very nice. I just wish he didn't take my mother with him.
Oh, my God. Do you mind sharing how that happened?
Not at all. She walked in on him sleeping with his mistress and threatened to leave. He said she'd die first, and he made sure that happened. Then he must have felt an ounce of grief because he killed himself right after.
Jesus, I'm so sorry that you had to experience something like that.
I suppose it made me who I am. And you can publish this or not, but it's the first time I've said it to anyone.
It must be so hard to open up to people, having experienced what you did.
I think it's quite the opposite, really. What could be worse than all that for someone to know?
So, no dark secrets looming in the back of the trophy cabinet?
How dark do you want to know?
Only what you want the rest of Minnesota to share in.
Well, in that case, I think I'll save some of them till we're off the air.
Seriously, though, it must be hard to trust anyone.
You have a choice. Either grow up and leave it behind, or you let yourself live in that moment forever. I chose to leave it in my past. What other dramatic details can I share?
Well, I know that every single magazine asks you what your love life looks like now, if there's anyone special, when marriage is coming for you.
They all want to know.
Well, instead of that, let me ask 2 different questions.
Ask away.
First, is marriage something you want? With all of your success, with the amount that you've lived and thrived on your own, do you even want to be married?
No.
I'm sorry if that's too personal.
No, it's just... no one has asked it that way before. You're right. They only want to know when and not if. I thought it might be nice to have a wedding, you know, all eyes on me, the most desired woman in the whole world for that one day. I think a wedding would be nice.
You'd stop the press in a wedding gown.
I know it.
But when you picture yourself in that gown walking down the aisle, is there anyone there at the end of it?
Oh. No. No, there isn't. How silly, a wedding with no groom.
I've heard sillier things. My next question, then, is this. Have you ever been in love? Has there ever been someone who set your heart on fire, whether you could tell them or not, whether it was a full-fledged romance or not? And you don't have to tell me anything about them if you don't want to, but I would just love to hear if the elusive Jordan Baker has ever had her heart stolen away.
I have.
Is there anything more you want to share?
I used to write letters to my future self using his last name. I would picture myself on podiums, and when they announced me as the winner, he would run up onto the stage and twirl me around in his arms, folding me into him, kissing the top of my head as he raised my hand in victory. But he died in the war.
Oh, Jordan. Did he ever know how you felt?
He did.
Do you want to move on and talk about fun things like fashion, trophies, the best celebration meal you've ever eaten, or maybe the cheating scandal that kept your name in the papers for a solid year straight?
I would love nothing more.
Well, let's get into it.
I do want to say about the scandal. Moving the ball, I did do that.
Oh.
I know. I've never said it on the record before. If you print this, they'll probably come to my apartment and take that medal away from me. But you know what? I don't care. I've never felt freer in my life. I've proven myself 100 times over without cheating.
Why did you do it?
I was under so much pressure, and it's not an excuse, but it is a reason. I thought winning was the only thing that mattered. And I thought, if I won enough, that people in my life would start to take me seriously. I knew I couldn't make the shot as it lay, so I moved it.
Just like that?
Just like that. I'm not proud of it, but I can't change it.
I understand.
I wish more people did. So many people watch and judge and yell that they could do better or they would have done things differently. But the truth is, we have no idea what they'd do in that situation because they've never crossed the tape to the green. Or if they have, it's with their buddies. No one is a professional. When you're raised in a high-stakes environment, and naturally you're the best, you'll do whatever it takes to keep yourself on top.
And in the moment, you're not thinking about the consequences, just the end result it'll get you.
Exactly. But I am sorry I did it. I'm older now and care a little less about winning.
Confidence in yourself and not just your resume?
That's it. I know I can walk into a room and everyone will come to me. It's exhausting sometimes, having to stay on all the time. Do you know what I mean?
I understand what you mean, but I can't relate. As a journalist, I try my best to sink into the background, let everyone else shine the light right onto them when I can.
You sound like Nick.
He's very good at that, being a cheerleader for the people he loves.
Off the record?
Sure.
I wasn't very kind to him. That summer was one of the worst of my life. I'm sure you can imagine why.
Yes, it sounded terrible for everyone involved, for one reason or another.
I wasn't at my best, and I'm afraid he took a lot of that collateral damage. Sometimes, even now, like the other night, I still act like nothing quite touches me. But the truth is that I feel everyone's pain quite deeply, and I wish I had treated him better.
I'm sure he would like to hear that.
Maybe you can tell him for me?
Maybe you should tell him yourself.
Some things are still very hard.
I think that makes them more worth doing.
I'm not sure I like you when you're right.
As much as I was set on hating her, I really liked Jordan Baker. I knew that I should feel conflicted from all of Nick's reports, but the truth is that she was and is still very young. She had lived 100 lives and had 100 traumas, more than I could ever imagine, but she still carried herself with grace, joy, and no reserve. As we kept chatting, I found myself forgetting all about Gatsby's murder. I knew that had been my original intention for the interview, but I was too engrossed with her life and her story to remember to pry deeper. I told Nick when I got back to the hotel what she had said in her own way of an apology, but he just shrugged it off. It wasn't something that he was ready to hear yet, or maybe even something that he'd ever want to acknowledge. I think he could tell that my afternoon with Jordan had veered away from investigation, so he was adamant that the next day we go back down to West Egg to reinvestigate Gatsby's house. The fall wind was picking up, and we wanted to make sure we had a full day of searching if we needed it, so we planned to leave early in the morning and get down just after breakfast time. We knew that we needed to do a thorough sweep of Gatsby's lawns, and the house itself if we thought it might stir up any leads, in the daylight without the prying eyes of Detective Amory. In the morning sun, the house was so much warmer than the first night we had been, as the sunset had seemed to light the broken windows on fire. Today, everything felt stripped of pretension, basking naked in the summer sun for everyone to watch. We parked on the road, hopeful to search every inch of the grounds fresh, even the driveway which we knew had been driven over several times since the crime had happened, just in case we noticed something new. Methodically we searched, centimeter by centimeter, pebble of gravel by blade of grass by speck of dirt. I grabbed my measuring tape from the car and set to work measuring distances from the bushes to the pool. I needed to know how far away George Wilson would have been standing from Gatsby to see if he could have made such a direct shot by luck. I jotted down numbers, angles, and diagrams in my notebook to have as accurate a picture as possible. I was circling the pool when I heard Nick shout, a panic, strangled sort of yelp from the bushes behind me. I spun around, almost losing my footing and falling into the empty concrete basin that used to be a pool, and saw Nick vigorously pointing to the ground, hands covered in dirt. Running over, I could see that he had been digging along the top layers of dirt in the bush line, scratching underneath the surface for anything hidden between, and he had found it. Underneath years of regrowth, with the thin branch of a tall bush pierced through one of the holes, was a faded gold button. All That Glitters is written, produced, and edited by me, Steph Crugnola, inspired by The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This episode features Pablo Muñoz-Evers as Nick and Lindsay Palinsky as Jordan. Music by Josh Kavanaugh.